RimWorld Biotech is only a couple of days away, and yesterday Tynan posted the last dev blog before the actual release on Friday. I am so excited. In this one, the focus is on various xenohumans spread across the world and the factions they form. If you watched my last update where I talked about gene modding, you know that factions are getting a whole lot more interesting. So let's dive right in. In Biotech, there will be over 200 genes you can mix and match together, and the various humanoid creatures in the world carry their own mix of those genes. Thusly, new xenohuman factions were born, enriching the world as allies, foes, prisoners, recruitable colonists, or just gene farms if you want their genes. Using the gene extractor, these NPC xenohumans offer you access to new genes you can then recombine according to your own needs. There are a couple of new factions, and while we don't know if they are replacing the existing ones or adding to them, they're definitely more colorful than the old pure human factions, where really the only difference between them was their level of technology and how mad they were. Now you have to prepare for raids based on who's knocking on your door, and you probably won't want to build a wooden base when a group of fire-breathing crazy tribals could steal your children in any point. Now, let's take a look at some of the new factions. As I said, they all come in distinct flavors and they all have some lore associated with their background. So if you want to read that, I'll link the blog post below. First, now we have pigskins. They are part of the rough pig union, and they're basically human-pig hybrids with cute piggy snouts. The real question beckons here. If you butcher them, do they drop human or pig meat? Do we get bacon? Could we use growl fats as a cheap pig farm? We do not know. But what we do know is that they are hardy, and they can eat almost anything without getting sick. But because of their piggy hands, they have lower manipulation, and they also can't see that well at a distance. You can ally them, but if they raid you, they will prefer close-range weapons and explosives, bringing with them smell of bacon. Now, baseline pigskins don't seem too amazing as colonists because manipulation and sight are both quite important, but I assume you can fix that with the new genes and definitely with bionics. So once you get to the late game, they'll be pretty good with their natural toughness. Next, we have impids. They are part of the savage impid tribe and sound basically as improved tribespeople. They thrive in the desert but struggle in other environments. They're very fast in open terrain, tolerate extremely high temperatures, and spew fire from their mouths, because why not? You cannot ally them because of their natural desire to burn down your colonies. They are good range fighters, but squishy at melee, preferring to use handheld fire weapons and their fire spew ability. But their tech level seems Neolithic from the screenshot, so you should be fine with some fire from poppers and stone walls. As colonists, they could be pretty decent in warmer climates. If you give them proper armor and cover, they'll be able to set raiders on fire, which is pretty good because that's going to confuse them for long enough so your other colonists can then pick them apart. They probably won't be useful against mechanoids though. Also, do not allow them close to your farms. Moving on to Yitakin. They're part of the Yitakin pirate faction, which basically makes them furry pirates with some buffs. They're adapted to survive in ultra-cold environments, their fur being a natural protection from cold. They are slow, but very tough, being able to keep on going past the point of any other race. Being pirates, you of course cannot ally them, and when they come raiding you, they'll bring their animal companions with them, who they actually share a psychic connection with. It looks like they're the same technology level than normal pirates, so expect gunpowder weapons. As colonists, they should make Sea Ice Challenge much easier, and being tough makes them for perfect tanks. I am sure bionic legs can fix their slower movement, which should make you want to have furries in all but the hottest colonies. And speaking of hot colonies, every colony is made hotter if you are part of it. And what better colony than my community? Subscribe now and join us in our adventures in biotech, and let's have some fun with furries together. Oh, what have I just said? Moving on, next they are Neanderthals, who are part of the fierce Neanderthal tribe. They're basically tribespeople, but tougher. They have higher injury resistance and immunity to infections, which makes them quite powerful. Luckily enough, their tech level is Neolithic, so even though they will swarm you with numbers, they shouldn't be too tough to beat. Being Neanderthals also makes them bad at intellectual and social skills because Ooga booga. You won't be able to ally them, but they might sometimes come to trade with you. As colonists, they will make for great soldiers with their high resistance to injuries and immunity to infections, although I gotta admit it would be funny to deck out a Neanderthal with all kinds of bionics and genes and make them an ultra-tech research machine. Another major faction are Wasters, who are part of the Waster Pirates. Now, you're probably starting to get the idea, most of these new Xenofactions are not very friendly, and no, you cannot ally Wasters. They love drugs to the point where most of them require flake or yayo to survive. They're gray-skinned, aggressive, and immune to toxic pollution and disease, which would make them perfect colonists if you are embracing the pollution that comes with the high-tech mechanoid infrastructure required for a mech colony. Their faction is actually a conglomerate of Wasters and a scattering of xenotypes I mentioned before, but also a couple of xenotypes that seemingly don't form their own factions, but still exist out there as parts of other factions. The blog post mentions 4 of those, but there might be more out there with how many genes there are, and I'm sure modders will be able to create hundreds of new weird factions. These other xenotypes are Dirt Moles, Genies, Hussars, and Highmates. Dirt Moles have gray skin and thrive in the dark and cramped spaces. They prefer short distance combat and are good at mining, but are sensitive to natural light, slow, and have poor eyesight at a distance. Genies are great at manipulating machines. They are engineers and good crafters. Being emotionally cold makes them bad at social, but they won't break as easily as some other people might. They're physically fragile though and can be down with just a little pain, so basically something like wimps. Hussars are engineered soldiers. They are aggressive and precise. They heal fast and thrive in extreme temperatures. They do have a genetic dependence on goat juice. They're violent and bad at social. Should make them for good soldiers though, as long as you can keep up with their demand for drugs. Last are the Highmates. Designed as companions or concubines, they are beautiful, happy, charming, and kind. Basically, perfect sex slaves. They do suck at other work and are physically weak and incapable of violence. One unique thing about them is they can psychically bond with a mate, making them both happier, but I fear what might happen if they were to die. I know this is a lot of info to take in about all the new xenotypes, but I have left the juiciest one till the end. There exists a secret faction of Sanguophages, who are basically vampires. Now, if you're trying to keep your biotech experience more or less spoiler-free, you might want to skip to the last part of the video now. Still with me? Alrighty then. As I mentioned, they are a secret faction, which means they can be hiding amongst other factions. For instance, a pigskin Sanguophage or a Yitakin Sanguophage. Occasionally you'll get a quest from them. They might seek protection, secrecy, or salvation. Whatever those last 2 are in actual game mechanics, we don't know yet. But if you succeed, they might offer you the gift of immortality. Sanguophages have superhuman abilities. They are smart and beautiful, they don't age or die naturally, and never suffer from disease or poison. In combat, they can actually launch deadly spikes and heal injured friends. Their only weakness is fire, and they get slowed down by UV light. They are powerful, but that power comes with a price. Their genetic need for human blood. They need to regularly consume hemogen, which they can get from human blood, and it acts as a fuel for their powers. Occasionally, they have to go into a death rest in a special caskets, where they sleep and regenerate for a couple of days. Basically, vampires. Death Rest caskets can be enhanced via various devices. You have Death Rest Accelerator, which speeds it up, Hemopump that increases the amount of hemogen they can store, Hemogen Amplify that allows them to gain more hemogen from any hemogen source, Glucozoid Pump which makes them move faster, and Psychofluid Pump that enhances their psychic powers. On paper that might seem like a lot, but I'm sure in-game it should be pretty straightforward, and Accelerator especially sounds like a useful device because no one wants their superpower vampires to sleep through a raid. If you want your own Sanguophage, you might be able to disable and capture one, at which point you can just extract their special xenogerm and re-implant it. If you want to engineer your own xenotype with Sanguophage powers though, you'll have to find these genes via quests and trade. Unfortunately, you will need a rare resource called Archites to help with the installation. Those can be gained via quest and trade, as well as special means. What those special means are, we don't know yet. What we do know is that these new vampires are extremely cool, and you'll be able to start a game as a Sanguophage with a single servant via a scenario. In the end, I wanted to mention that the Biotech Price tag has been revealed, and it's heftier than the previous two DLCs. It will cost $25 USD, while I believe Royalty and Ideology expansion cost 15 or 20-ish. The reasoning is that it took longer to develop Biotech, it took more people to do it, and it's so large that it could be 2 DLCs. Now, I don't want to go into a debate how fair that price tag is, but I think Tynan knows that the majority of his fan base is at the point they'll pay whatever the price is, as they'll get hundreds if not thousands of hours of game time from this new expansion. Anyway, I am extremely excited for Friday, and I can't wait to see these new factions and Xenos in action. I think gene modding is going to enrich the RimWorld universe to the point we've never seen before. Now, you tell me, which of these Xenohumans are you recruiting into your colony first?